Welcome into the SBR Betting Roundtable for September 19th. We're talking college football, NFL, and best bets coming up. Let's go right around the horn. Mr. Donnie Rightside, follow him on Twitter at RightsideVP. Welcome in, bud.
Hey, another day, another dollar here on the Roundtable. Good to be with you gentlemen here, thick in the middle of football season. No more overreactions for us, right, guys? I think we know pretty much what we have on the table, both NFL and for college football. Let's get into it, win some money. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Ian Cameron on Twitter at Babano. What's up, bud?
It's a great time of year, Drew. Of course, you've got football in full force. You've got baseball winding down, hockey starting in a couple weeks. Looking forward to that. How about NFL football? 2 weeks, how things can change. We've got coaches coming off the hot seat. Dirk Cutter in Tampa. Coaches going on the hot seat. Mike Tomlin and Bill O'Brien. Hello to you two. A lot of interesting things to talk about NFL-wise. Things getting hairy already.
You're right. And when does NHL start?
Exactly 2 weeks from tonight. We'll be dropping the puck on Wednesday, October 3rd. Looking forward to it.
Wow. That's crazy, man. Good for the NHL guys. But last, certainly not least, big man on campus on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. How you doing, big man?
Doing well, Drew. Glad to be on the roundtable. As always, looking forward to talking more football.
Absolutely. More football. Let's get right at it. College football will start off, then the NFL, hit best bets. We got a degenerate special as well. It's a good one, kind of. It excites me anyway. Hey, we'll start off Friday night. FAU, UCF, Sunshine State battle. You can make the argument these are the two best teams in the state of Florida. Anyway, FAU catching 13.5, 75 the total right now using SBR odds. Who wants to start us off? Ian, you got an opinion here on the Owls versus the Knights?
Yeah, I mean, UCF looks like they're not they're not getting behind offensively this season. Just the same kind of group you saw last season with their explosiveness, with Mackenzie Milton playing at an extremely high level once again. Just a tremendous offense. And of course, we mentioned how Scott Frost was leaving earlier, and I said, don't worry about it. Josh Heupel's going to be a fine, perfect fit to keep this offense rolling, keep it flowing, and boy, is it ever for this UCF team so far this season. The question's going to be now, can Florida Atlantic match them? Because they're going to have to score point for point in this game. It's been an underwhelming somewhat start to the season for Florida Atlantic offensively. Of course, they got drubbed by Oklahoma. Even against Air Force, they really didn't get that offense going consistently throughout the entire football game. We'll see if they can get it going here. Thompson, the quarterback's been very erratic. Lane Kiffin showing him a vote of confidence, saying, I'm going to stick with him here this week against UCF, and we need him to step up. We need him to play better. We'll see if he can. This total's been pushed up. I have no argument with that, although you got to be careful now with where it is now. We're talking from 67 all the way to 75 in this game. You know, I'm kind of interested in maybe catching 14 here with Florida Atlantic in this game for one reason. Central Florida's defense, I've still got questions about. I mean, it hasn't shown up yet. Remember that first game, UConn and Pindell, their quarterback, moved the ball a little bit against that UCF team. Turnovers really did UConn in, but they moved the ball a little bit against Central Florida. I think Florida Atlantic is going to be able to move it, put up some points here in this game. Total's now out of range for me. I liked it over initially where it was, but 14, I'm kind of interested in leading with FAU in this game.
Big man, I mean, it sounds like Ian leaning with FAU. Their quarterback, Chris Robinson, he's kind of been up and down. Do you see him having a good game, and any opinion on betting FAU, UCF?
This is a tough game. This is really tough because I think Ian makes a good point on the total. I mean, it's kind of gotten out of range for a lot of people, but 75 with these two teams isn't necessarily out of reach. Let's say. I mean, we know both teams are going to go quick. Look, Florida Atlantic was giving up a ton of points last week to Bethune-Cookman. I mean, I want to say. So, I mean, this is not a defense that I'm incredibly, shaking in my boots to play if I'm UCF. They should be able to move the ball at will. I have a feeling they kind of pull away towards the end. I don't know if this is the same FAU team. Look, I try to tell people this team wasn't as good as they thought they were. When they step up and play competition, they're not very good, frankly. They didn't do it last year. And you look at already this year, they've struggled out of the gate to beat anyone that's worth talking about. So I think stepping up here, this is obviously something I think they're going to have a little trouble with. I think UCF is a lot better than they are. Mackenzie Milton has had a week to prepare. If you remember last week, UCF didn't play, so they've shifted their focus to FAU. It should be a good game. It's one of those standalone games on the weekends or on the week, so that's kind of one I want to stay away from as well. I just there's not a ton of value. I think anything under 14, I'd consider maybe laying it because with these two offenses, winning by 2 touchdowns is not out of the question, especially with how bad FAU's defense is. It's a tough game. It's not a game I'll be betting on.
Yeah, I'm with you. I kind of lean UCF too. I mean, with these high-scoring games, they can make the number look a little small. But Donnie, do you got that FAU shirt on underneath?
I should have it on. Yeah, I should have busted out the red shirt knowing that we were going to go over a little Lane Kiffin action today. I don't, though.
Oh man. Well, are you looking to be on the Lane train Friday night?
Yeah, look, I like UCF. UCF, love the quarterback. Another factored in. They did have the bye week, so they get some extra time to prepare. But let's not get past who UCF has played and how we're fawning all over UCF. I mean, if Jeff will attest to, as we watch some Connecticut tape out there, not exactly a formidable opponent. And then you played South Carolina State on top of that. So nobody's been battle tested. So then you flip it over and you say, you know what? What about FAU? What have they been done? Well, they've been tested all right and got a straight F in their test at Oklahoma, getting embarrassed. Then coming back playing Air Force at home and squeaking by not your greatest Air Force squad, and then going up against Bethune-Cookman in a 49-28 struggle here. There will be points in this football game, but I'm not so sure that if we're looking at UCF's side, if you can get that 14, obviously that's going to be a key number. But I'm leaning more on the points in this one. I think these teams will go back and forth. I think the tempo is going to be good. But look, if UCF had started off and maybe bounced, let's just say, an average opponent like Louisville by 30 points, I would be much more inclined to lay the wood and hammer UCF. But look, I'm in the bank of saying I need to see against some light competition before I'm laying 2 touchdowns with you here. Early prognosis, I'll lean FAU with the points because, look, I like UCF. They ain't playing anybody yet, though.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, there's volatility on both sides. We don't know what to expect from really either one of them. Great point, Donnie, because even FAU has been so-called tested. It wasn't really a game to kind of rate them very well. Guys, great stuff there on Friday night. The Friday night card this week's pretty stacked. We got Washington State, USC as well in the nightcap. Moving on to Saturday action, the Big Ten, I believe our first Big Ten game, Minnesota, Maryland, 46.5 the total. Looks like Maryland, the Terps, laying 3. This is an important game to shop around, though, guys. On SBR odds, you can see that Bet Online has 2.5. Important half point there from 2.5 to 3 if you're looking to bet on this one. Jeff, let's start off with you, man. Anything on the Terps versus the Gophers?
Yeah, I don't have any confidence that either team can really move the ball. I mean, you look at Maryland, already a team that you look at last week really struggled to get any form of consistency in their offense against the Temple Owls. Now they're going to play one of the better defenses in the Big Ten. Minnesota always very good on defense. That's one thing that whether it's Tracy Clace or PJ Fleck, this team has had a good defense. I wonder about their offense, Minnesota. Rodney Smith already out, Shannon Brooks out, 2 of the better running back tandems in the country. They're already out. Zach Nextad is battling an ankle injury, their quarterback. I don't think their offense is 100%. I mean, they only they haven't really had much in the way of a ground game all of a sudden due to those guys being out. I think their defense surely comes to play. I think both defenses come to play in this game. I think Maryland is starting to get going a little bit on that side of the ball. They've just kind of turned their kind of tempo into being more of a lower scoring Big Ten team. That's kind of what they are. I still think they're better than Minnesota, though. I would probably think that they can get the job done here. But for me, it's all about a next if he's in there, I obviously give Minnesota a bit more of a chance. I feel like this game's like a 23-17, 23-20 kind of game. I lean Maryland and I leaned under. I think you got to have real balls to play an under 46 in college football. But I just don't see a ton of offense in this game. And keep in mind, I mean, Maryland went 1 for 12 against Temple on 3rd down. I mean, that's not going to obviously move the chains, and that's not going to give you many points. I lean under here, frankly. It's, again, Drew, a game that you pick. I mean, we don't pick these games, so I try to give my best opinion here. But I think Maryland's good enough to get the job done. I like their quarterbacks a bit more, like their offense a bit more. I'd probably rock with Maryland here. Just too many injuries for Minnesota.
Big man, do you know the story for Minnesota's quarterback? You said his name in Nexted, where he came from? Because I was just watching a game last night, and he can really throw it, man. You can watch this kid throw the ball. So I know he's questionable.
Well, yeah,
do you know his background?
he's finally a quarterback that they have that can move the ball. I mean, remember some of the quarterbacks they've had over the years there. I mean, Mitch Leidner. I mean, guys like that just have struggled with moving the ball. But the kid went to IMG, which if you know recruiting, you know football, that's
Yeah.
obviously a high end school. He's from the area. He's from that state. And Fleck obviously brought him in. So his I believe his cousin. I think his cousin Sam Decker, the basketball player. So he has some decent bloodlines, some good connections. I think his father played in the NFL, so he's a good player. I mean, he's got some talent and a quarterback that they've needed for a while at Minnesota.
Good stuff, big man. Ian, anything here on Minnesota, Maryland you want to throw out?
Yeah, if Anixtad ends up being a guy that it plays in this football game, I'm going to look at Minnesota long and hard +3 here in this game. Maryland, you take away that first game. I think they were running on adrenaline when they beat Texas. I mean, that was the first game of the season. Matt Canada, the interim coach there. We know the DJ Durkin situation. We know the player that passed away in the offseason and the terrible situation that was. I think they ran on fumes that day. Brought it to the field, big time win against Texas. After that, though, against Bowling Green, okay, they beat them 45-14. Last week, a very poorly played loss against Temple at home, 35-14. Temple's solid, don't get me wrong, but just horrible defense by this Maryland team, and nothing from the quarterback. I mean, Kasim Hill's supposed to be a veteran player now. At this point of his college career. And to see him with a 51% completion rate with 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 7 of 17 throwing the football last week, that's not something I want to endorse right now. And Minnesota's played very good defense so far this season. They do have a decent win on their resume against Fresno, and Fresno just waxed UCLA last weekend. So I think Minnesota's the way I'm going here. I think Maryland sort of, they had that nice first win. I think reality's starting to set in now. This team's maybe not quite as good as that Texas win indicates. You got PJ Fleck here, who, as I said, year 1 in Western Michigan wasn't good for him, but year 2, that team started to get much better. We might be starting to see signs of that here. Year 2, PJ Fleck now in Minnesota, that he's really going to start having his fingerprints all over improvement on this Minnesota football team. +3, I'm definitely looking at Gophers or nothing.
Donnie, I think that report, the final report for Maryland, comes out on Friday. Do you think that could have any impact on this game, and any opinion on betting it on Saturday?
Yeah, well, I mean, when you take just the two teams, Jeff's right. It's hard to take anything in the 40s in college football just because the clock's going to stop a lot. The kids are going to make some mistakes, both good and bad. But if we're going to take a look at both of these programs, are any one of these even going to be confused with an aerial show at quarterback? So now you lost a couple running backs from Minnesota, and your quarterback, who can move it on the ground, is now hobbled with an ankle. If we take a look at both of these football teams, the way they play defense, let's just take a look first at Minnesota. 2.9 yards on the ground, 3.6, and 1.9 as their defense over the first 3 games. That means you're not gashing them repeatedly, which is what these quarterbacks want to do. Use a nice little ground option. Flip it over to Maryland's side of the football. First 3 games, 3.2 yards per ground, a half of a yard per ground versus Bowling Green. And then you had 3.9 versus Texas, who's a formidable Power 5 opponent there. Both of these defenses should be able to stand up, and I don't see a lot of movement there on the offensive side of the football. So I'll lean on the under in this situation because it takes some passing in order to get those overs, hit them into the 50s and into the 60s. Both these teams, I think, are going to play it close. It's almost one of those games that you look at, who's going to make the first mistake, and then who's going to sit on the football with a 7-0 lead late in the second quarter and just try to get to halftime. Don't see a lot of movement here on both offenses. I'll lean on the under as low as it is.
All right, Jeff and Donnie liking the under. 46.5, I believe, is the number pretty much across the board right now, SBR odds. Guys, let's move on to a big one in the SEC, the last college football game here, 405, 406. Texas A&M, the Aggies traveling to play Alabama. Alabama laying close to 4 touchdowns at home, -27, 61 the total. Donnie, we'll come right back at you, man. Do you see lightning in a bottle in Tuscaloosa this time around?
I mean, how do you stop Alabama at this point? Like, we always talk in the past, like, Alabama's going to have that quarterback that really holds the team back. Jalen Hurts had a really good season last year, but he's not the type of guy that's going to be running up and down the field. Now you have Tua back there, and it looks like he can make every single play and keep it moving. You saw the game last week, a first play touchdown by Ole Miss, and then all of a sudden 62 straight points on the road by Alabama. I saw Tony from the Golden Nugget tweet out yesterday, can we please just stop stop taking, Alabama and a teaser in the over. You're just going to bury everybody here at the Sportsbook. Stay out of Alabama's way. Anything less than 35, or why would you step in front of Alabama right now, knowing full well that they have 45 points in their back pocket with a lights out defense?
I just to be devil's advocate, I mean, they did kind of take Clemson to the brink there, the arguably a top 5 team.
No, you're right. That was a nice situation for them, though, playing at home. I don't know if Clemson's in the same ballpark overall as Alabama, but every time you watch Alabama play, they sort of take that little chip on their shoulder and say, hey, this team thinks they can win. Or do you remember a couple years ago when they came in and beat us with Johnny Manziel? There was a lot of steam for Ole Miss saying, dude, wait, they haven't seen our offense yet. And after the first play, you're like, oh, my goodness, they're going to be able to shoot it out with them. And they completely embarrassed Ole Miss the rest of the way.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm not looking to step in front of Alabama. I've already done it once, lost with Arkansas State, and I'm not looking to do it anytime soon. Jeff, what about you, man? You think there's any value in the total or this big number on Texas A&M?
Yeah, I mean, I think you bring up the Clemson game. I think this is definitely the best team that Alabama's going to play. Texas A&M are good. They're well coached. They have plenty of talent. They have a pretty good quarterback as well. Listen, Alabama's going to slip up at some point. They're not going to lose this game, but to give a team like Texas A&M this many points, I would definitely bite on it. I don't think Alabama's going to beat everyone 62-7 every week. Kellen Mond's shown that he's a pretty solid quarterback. They have a good run game. Listen, I don't really try to break these games down. I really just try to go with my gut in these ones, just because when I saw this line, to me, it seemed like too many points. I think Texas A&M are better than being 4 touchdown underdogs to Alabama. Alabama's going to hit a thud very soon. They're going to hit a wall. They're not going to win every week like that. Look, I'll be real, though. Donnie and I have both. I think if you ask Donnie and I who our favorite offensive team in the country is, it would be a vote of confidence on Ole Miss. Ole Miss are sick with the football. They are one of the most exciting offenses in the country I've seen in a long time. But you shut them down to 7 points. They scored the 7 points right away, too. The fact that they only scored 7 points that game is pretty unreal. I mean, the way Ole Miss plays, that's quite amazing. And I got to tell you, I was quite surprised. I didn't think Alabama, I thought if they had a weak link, it was in their secondary, which I think at some point they will have that issue. But I think this is too many points. I'd prefer to get 4 touchdowns clear, but I still think this is like a, 45, 23, something like that. I think they can hang around. The over looks okay as well. You should see some points in this one, but Texas A&M's better than being 4 touchdown dog.
Yeah, a lot of people, came in with that thought that Alabama's kind of defensive backfield would be the weak point, but a great defensive line can cover that up, and they got a lot of great players up front. Ian, anything on Texas A&M, Bama, and Tuscaloosa Saturday?
Yeah, from a side perspective, these Bama games are really difficult for me to get involved with. They really are. I mean, if you bet against Alabama, you could be asking for it. But if you bet on them, maybe here's that week where they throw in a little clunker, a few too many penalties, maybe a turnover or 2 that they don't normally have, and you end up not cashing a ticket. So that's the conundrum with Alabama. And the problem is, I don't care what they did last week. If everyone's going to say 62-7, you can still. They are 3-0 against the spread, but from a strict power rating perspective, in the point spread, there's no value on Alabama. Eventually, there's going to become a week where the numbers catch up to this team. It hasn't yet against Ole Miss, Arkansas State, and Louisville, but eventually it will catch up to them. Is this the week? Who knows? You can't take anything away from A&M. I mean, they took Clemson down to the wire, had every opportunity to win that game, outgained Clemson by 88 yards. Kellen Mond has 430 passing yards through the air against that Clemson defense, which to me was very impressive, without an interception, I might add. So Mond played extremely well against that Clemson defense. Can't take anything away from him here. That was at home, though, so let's see how he does on the road. Tuscaloosa, Alabama, that environment, can he handle it? He does look like a much better quarterback this season so far. Maybe that's a product of Kevin Sumlin not being there. That wouldn't surprise me. But nevertheless, I think Texas A&M, could hang around in this game. I just know from an Alabama perspective right now, I'm not willing to tempt fate and go against them until I see them have that slip up. They haven't yet. The over does make some sense. I agree with that move. It's gone up a little bit, this total. I think it can get there in terms of an over. I think Texas A&M going to have a tough time stopping Alabama. And I think from an offensive perspective, this could be one of the tougher offenses Bama's faced so far this season.
Hey, Drew.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to mention one thing. I think one thing also that I think the guys will agree on here is Texas A&M put 500 plus yards up on Clemson. I mean, Clemson's front line is better than Alabama's. I know we can try to act like Alabama's supremely good at every position and no one's going to be better at them anywhere, but Clemson is. Clemson didn't have a ton of trouble moving the ball. I mean, they didn't really, 500 yards, nothing to scream at. And I just don't really. I mean, Donnie, you've seen Alabama. You've seen these teams. I mean, they can't win every game by 60 points. It's just not going to happen. And this is the best competition by a wide margin they put. We can knock Ole Miss and say they're good on offense, but they are a dreadful defensive team, which we know. I mean, Texas A&M, with Mike Elko, this is the reason you brought guys like Mike Elko in to be your defensive coordinator. Let's see if it's changed. I think Jimbo Fisher, he's a guy that, obviously you play Clemson, so you kind of know how to play an elite team already. This is just too many points to me. And look, if I lose by 40, well, then so be it. But
no, you're right. Look, you do bring up a really good point, Jeff. But the one thing that just screams out at me, which makes Alabama just outward freakish, is when you look at Ole Miss putting up, 500 yards passing a game, averaging 15 yards per throw coming into that game. They were down 50 points in that game, and that offense still only mustered 133 yards in the air. Think about that. In the second half, when this game was a 4, 5, 6 touchdown game, Alabama is still putting the screws to one of the best offenses in the country. That is absolutely scary because when you bet teams and underdogs, you need them to score points and keep it close. But when just getting like 3 yards is tough against a team, good luck going 75 yards when they don't give it up. When even crunch time would say, all right, hey, let's lay back. Let's just play a cover 2, give them what they want. They still put the screws. And keep in mind, 133 yards passing, 75 came on the first play of the game. That means when they're down 50 points, they gave up about 50 to 60 yards passing through 4 quarters. Outrageous.
Yeah, that
is
is crazy,
amazing,
man.
And let's be
Donnie,
honest, in terms of Alabama and their explosiveness, they've got way more playmakers than they've had in the past. Tua Tagovailoa gives them a completely different element in terms of his playmaking ability. We're not dealing with the Blake Sims anymore or the John Parker Wilsons, if you remember way back in the Nick Saban era. I mean, A.J. McCarron, go on down the list. All these guys that would just manage the game, make the check down, make the throws when they were there. He was pretty good. All right, we'll give him a little.
Yeah, no, Jay, but you can go back to Jay Barker. Go back to Jay Barker days. We'll do that.
Yeah, John Parker Wilson.
Guy that's on ESPN. That guy was funny.
Greg McElroy.
Yeah, Greg McElroy.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, he was another game manager. He's a good analyst, though. I'll give him that. But John Parker Wilson was Saban's first quarterback there at Bama when he first got the job, and he was just manage the game, rely on that defense. It's like a totally different Alabama world we're living in right now. Exactly. We're living with a team now that's got that offensive explosiveness that pushes the ball deep, that looks for the big play, and has that great defense still behind them. I mean, good luck with Alabama this season with that in their arsenal.
Donnie, you bring up the athletes they have. I know you know the NFL as good as anybody. How do you think Tua will do in the NFL?
Yeah, it's real early in his career. I mean, is the kid a playmaker? Absolutely. You want to see him get a little bit bigger and stronger, and you want to see him play and see through the ghost progressions. But at this point, I mean, all you can ask for a kid is to lead your team on touchdown drives. I mean, he's doing it against SEC level competition, but it is kind of early for him. But early looks. Look, if he can develop, and again, they don't play some gimmick offense at Alabama. They run a little bit more of a pro style than, let's just say, like a UCF or Nebraska would be. So, props up, because if you're fast, you have a lightning arm and make the right reads. Well, hey, Baker Mayfield's in the pros right now as the #1 overall pick. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, big man. We've only seen him 3.5 games, but you think he'll have a decent NFL career?
Look, I mean, the NFL has changed as far as, what the quarterback is now. I mean, you make a good point with Mayfield. He's very accurate. I'll give him that. But he is very green. I mean, we haven't really seen a ton of him, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's not ready for the NFL. I mean, that just means that he's young and we haven't seen him yet. I could see it. I mean, I need to see a little bit more from him. We don't have a ton to go off of due to the the fact that he just hasn't played a ton. But you look at against the competition so far. I mean, killed it against Georgia. If you could keep going on and beating Ole Miss the way you did, and I mean, let's be honest. I mean, we got to look again back at the film. I mean, he didn't really play a ton against Ole Miss. I mean, that game was out of hand pretty early. But yeah, I mean, if you can continue to dominate teams like LSU and Georgia and Florida and defense like that down the road, sure, of course he can. He's definitely better than the previous quarterbacks we've seen at Alabama. Is he the guy that I'd take, number one quarterback? No, but I think he's a guy that's surely putting that on display. Yeah, sure, down the road, of course you can.
We got a Neil asking, are there any left-handed starting quarterbacks in the NFL right now? I don't think so.
I'm not sure. Yeah, that's interesting. No, I'm not sure. I mean, the Steve Youngs of the
Off
past.
the top of my head, no.
Yeah.
Interesting.
All
right.
I mean, I can remember a couple years ago, but I don't think there's any now. I think Boomer Esiason was a left-hander, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, there's been a couple.
I can't even remember.
Yeah, I don't think there's any now though.
Mark Brunell.
Yeah, I remember Mark Brunell. Yeah.
Anyway, guys, we speaking of the NFL, we got to head there right now. We got a interesting one down here in Miami. Oakland, Miami, 43.5. Dolphins laying 3 at home. 2-0 Dolphins. I got a bunch of friends that are Dolphins fans, and I'm thinking, this might be the time to fade them because people are starting to talk Super Bowl down here. And at 2-0 with this team, it's getting a little out of hand. It might be a fade opportunity. I'm not sure, but Ian, let's start off with you, man. You got anything on the Raiders Dolphins?
I actually thought Miami could get over their season win total, but a lot of that was schedule related early on. This is an extremely doable schedule that the Miami Dolphins were given to begin the season, and certainly they've made the most of it so far with a home win against Tennessee, 27-20 in that game that lasted forever, and then a road win against the Jets, catching a rookie quarterback on a short week with the Jets coming off the Monday night game against Detroit. So things have sort of worked out well for Miami so far, scheduling wise. Going to be a little bit trickier here, but what I do like is the way Brian Tannehill's responding in this Adam Gase offense. He looks comfortable. He looks very in control running it. I've been impressed with what I've seen from this Dolphins team on the offensive side of the football to this point of the season, and I think that can continue here against this Oakland team. I don't like this Oakland defense a whole lot. We know the Khalil Mack situation. We know about the fact that you're seeing all kinds of GIFs and images and comparison charts being posted everywhere on social media about how the fact that Khalil Mack has more sacks, defensive tackles, fumbles, interceptions than the entire Oakland defense so far through 2 games, which I'm sure is making John Gruden happy, knowing people are pointing that out about his football team. But there's a void in this Oakland defense. I don't trust the secondary to defend the pass. They're not getting any sort of pass rush right now. I think this is a time for Miami's offense to have another good game. But let's give Oakland's offense credit against Denver. They lost that game 20-19. Wasn't Derek Carr's fault. Guy barely had 2 or 3 incomplete passes that entire game. He played very well. Oakland's defense, which I just criticized, couldn't get a stop with the game on the line. That was the difference in the end. Case Keenum went down the field, put Denver in position to kick the game-winning field goal. I'm going to lean on the over in this game at 43.5. I don't understand why this total is coming down. Maybe it's weather-related. If it is, okay. But even if we don't get wind, I think this total's too low. I think Oakland's going to move it. I think Miami's going to move it. We'll go over 43.5. I like that one a lot. In fact, coming back to this one for best bet at the end of the show.
All right, Ian liking the over. Donnie, I will say one thing I have noticed with the Dolphins that might be an under-trender is their D-line gets after it. One, do you agree with the under, and anything else on the Dolphins and Raiders here?
Yeah, not too high-flying teams, as you've seen from the first 2 games. But also, when you're talking about price points here, you're looking at the Oakland Raiders getting a lot of respect here, only getting 3 points on the road after an 0-2 start. Theoretically, they probably should have won the game last week in Denver. And the week before, they did have the lead at the half versus the Los Angeles Rams, but did fold up in the second half. Back-to-back games on the road, West Coast team coming east. And if you're looking to take the Oakland Raiders, you're looking for them to win the football game because, again, as I said, it's only 3 points here. I think the Miami Dolphins can keep it close to the vest, maybe get Devontae Parker back as another weapon on the outside. I like the formula that Miami's using here. Look, slow the game down. Let's wait for the other team to make mistakes. They went up to play the red hot Jets, the world champion Jets, with the best quarterback in the planet, and basically shut him down last week. Now they're coming back home, and you get that nice home field environment for Miami, which so few in the league have. Not because of the fans are making noise, but it's probably going to be 85 degrees with 99% humidity out there for a team on the West Coast traveling east, playing an early game, 1 o'clock game on the East Coast. So I lean, Miami Dolphins early in the week, because that line tells me the Raiders probably have to win this football game. If the price point was different, 4.5, 6.5, yeah, I would be really interested in the Oakland Raiders. But I'm not trusting the Oakland Raiders to win football games just yet. I think Miami has a nice little game plan here at home just to win by a field goal. You get the push. I'll lean on the Dolphins.
Okay. There is a little bit of juice on that number 3, seeing like minus 115s and 20s right now. But yeah, you can still get the number of 3. What about
By
you,
the way,
big man?
I just want to jump
Dolphins,
in one
Raiders?
thing. I would pay up to get -3, -120 any day rather than lay 3.5. I mean, especially in the NFL. So I don't mind the -120 with -3 if it keeps me away from having to be stuck with 3.5.
Absolutely. 2.5, 3, 3.5, very important numbers in the NFL and really any football, but especially the NFL. Big man, what about you? Dolphins, Raiders?
Well, I'm just thinking about, imagine your life if you think the Dolphins are going to win the Super Bowl. Imagine that life you have to live. My God. I mean, you're not serious with that, are you, Drew? There was serious.
Yes, there was a lot of, heavy alcohol was involved, but people were talking about going to the Super Bowl. Yes.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's South Florida fans for you, man.
Yeah. I will say this though, I liked him here. I mean, Donnie and I think we're dead on the money with this group. Miami are better than people think. This is a pretty good defense. It's a team with some talent on offense. Tannehill gives them a nice, kind of player quarterback. He's not a great player, but he gives you, he's a game manager. He's not going to be, a guy that turns the football over. And look, beating Tennessee on the, at home was impressive. You're going up to New York and beating that team with all the stuff around them is impressive also. You don't normally see teams be able to go up on the road or early in the season and do that. I think Oakland's a top 3 worst team in the league. I mean that. I think they're awful. The fact that they pissed away last week's game kind of makes total sense. I'm still totally lost at the fact that they got rid of Khalil Mack. It's just amazing to me. But I don't have a ton on the game. I think Miami's a better side. They're at home. 3 points is, generally, like Donnie said, I don't really want to. If I'm getting 6 here, maybe I'm more interested. But field goal's not enough for me against Miami. I don't want to bet on Oakland. Their offense sucks. I think their defense is a fraud. This team's given up a lot of yards through the air recently. They're always going to give up 250 in the air. Just not enough for me. I don't like my Oakland. Give me Miami at home. They've
so you're
been
looking
very
at
solid.
you're looking at kind of just power ratings are off as far as you're pegging Oakland
Yeah,
as
I
like a
feel like-
bottom 5 team here.
Yeah, I said at the beginning of the season, I thought they were a bottom 3 worst team in the league. I mean, who's worse than, like, other than Buffalo and Arizona? Who's as bad as Oakland? Oakland's bad. I mean, they have nothing on defense. I guess their offense is okay at times, but I mean, Derek Carr's a total fraud. I mean, John Gruden's stuck in
But they
the
did.
80s.
Now, I mean, look, I agree with Jeff's sentiments here, but just, sometimes it's who you play off the bat. I mean, they got the Rams right off the bat, John Gruden's first game, and then you go in to play Denver, and theoretically, and again, they should have won that football game at Denver. So I know Jeff's a little bit down on the Raiders, and you only, as Bill Parcells says, you are what your record says you are. You're 0-2, and then you're going on the road again, and you're an underdog, so you're supposed to be 0-3, but I give them a little bit of leeway here early.
Interesting.
You know what?
Would you
People
peg
are
them
saying-
as a bottom 5 team, Donnie?
Well, I mean, they're 0-2, and I don't really know where the season is going to be going up, because I think we can all agree that the toilet bowl at the end of the year right now should be the Cardinals versus the Bills, and the loser gets the number 1 pick. But outside of that, I mean, they're a bottom team, yes, because starting out 0-2, they're going to be playing in a tough division. I don't know where the wins come from, where they stack them up and get the 7 or 8 wins. So they're going to be a bottom 25% team, that's for sure.
And Ian, go ahead and finish this one off.
Yeah, Miami, again, I think they had a great chance to get off to a great start because of the schedule. We'll see what this defense is made of here this week, because I know there's belief that it's better, and it probably is, but, Robert Quinn's played great. I mean, Kiko Alonso's flying around so far for them, but let's see here, because you played Tennessee, bad offense. Jets, and Jets put up 360 yards in that game last week. They moved the football, but 2 interceptions and a fumble did them in. But they moved the ball in between the 20s against Miami. They just did a bad job finishing drives. I think Oakland will move it here in this game, but at the same point in time, I think Miami will as well.
Guys in the chat box, thanks for chiming in. We got Lawrence here saying, funny stat, last lefty to throw a TD pass in the NFL, Dez Bryant. So according to Lawrence,
Nice,
that's
there you
the
go.
Wow.
last lefty. Interesting stat there. Guys, another NFL game here. We got Jeff's boy at quarterback, Garoppolo. San Francisco catching 6.5 on the road. Case versus KC, 56 the total. A lot of points here. Patrick Mahomes, man, where'd he come from? Good quarterback there. Donnie, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, it's an interesting one when you line up because do you want to get in the way of Kansas City's offense right now? Seems like they have 30-plus points in their back pocket before the game even starts. I do like Jimmy Garoppolo and the San Francisco offense. A little bit shaky last week. They had a comfortable lead versus Detroit if you're looking spread-wise in that game. They almost let it get away to we even took a loss. Liked them a little bit better the week before versus Minnesota. But this is an interesting spot because you're going to have to keep up. I like the San Francisco 49ers in games where, let's just say, the other team's offense isn't a great offense. I think Garoppolo and that offense can move the football and keep it close. But this is one right now where they have the pedal to the metal in a tough environment to play. Kansas City is going to score points on that San Francisco defense, and you're going to have to return the shootout. Do we get some playmakers back with the San Francisco 49ers? Nice little Reuben Foster at middle linebacker. Maybe Goodwin plays at wide receiver to give you a little bit extra weapons. And let's not forget, Kansas City's defense isn't all that great. So Garoppolo and them should be able to move the ball, but I think they're setting that trap there. 56.5, 57 in an NFL football game is astounding. I mean, look, they got it last week. So you say, hey, why can't they get it this week? But sooner or later, the law of averages come in. I mean, a high-scoring game in the NFL, 31-20, 34-20 in that instance, and you don't even cover the actual total in the football game. But I like where this line is. It's showing a lot of respect to Kansas City. I can see a Kansas City win by 7 points here. Garoppolo has enough where he can keep this game close, but I just think Kansas City is going to be able to score at will in this football game, put up somewhere in the 30s. I'm interested to see what Jimmy G and the folks do on the road in a loud environment. We're not going to be able to hear the signals in this one, similar to what they saw up in Minnesota. Obviously, the defensive level of talent, not the same between the Vikings and the Kansas City Chiefs, but I think this line is priced pretty effectively. It's one of those where if you sit back, I don't know if it ever gets to 7, because then you might have to think about San Francisco, but as the home team after 2 sharp road appearances, I think Kansas City's headed for some points in this game, and I think they can win and cover by 7 points here.
Okay, so you like the cover. We got our boy Sonny Vega in the chat box asking for a perfect score from Donnie Rightside. Do you want to throw one out in this game?
For this game, let's go, I think it's going to sneak just under the total. I could see somewhere around, let's just say 34-21 in that range.
34-21
just stays under. Big man, what about you? What do you like in this one?
Yeah, I mean, Donnie's right. I mean, the total is getting, I feel like getting towards the highest you can really put it. I mean, and you look at like pace of play between these two teams. The NFL average pace of play is 27 seconds per play. The highest is the Detroit Lions at 23.62. The lowest is the Dallas Cowboys at almost 32 seconds per play. I mean, the San Francisco 49ers are basically average. They go about the average. And then, you look at KC, they're down over 29 seconds of play. So neither of these teams are particularly quick. They're efficient, but they're not quick. So, you get one quarter where this is kind of a slugfest between two, maybe someone drops a pass or something like that. You're getting up towards high numbers here. It's hard to fade, but I think sometimes you have to do that in the NFL. Sometimes, actually a lot of times in the NFL, when it looks too good to be true, it normally is. I just think for an NFL game, this is too high. I mean, I know that these two Dolphins are very good, but I wasn't very impressed with my boy Jimmy G last week. I thought they struggled on offense. I think the lack of weapons will come up to hurt them at some point. I just don't see enough on offense there, frankly. I know that Goodwin's out, and you got to obviously keep that in mind. But I would have liked to seen them go out and add another receiver. I think they're weak at that position. I think they're weak on offense in general. I think for me right now with KC, it's hard to go against them. I would look towards them in this game to cover, and I would also think that it stays under. I think if you can get 57.5, I think Donnie's score prediction's on the money. I think it's going to be difficult to go into KC and have any, sort of long-term success. I'll go KC minus the points here.
Okay, and just to come back at you, I know you know a lot about Jimmy G. Is there any off the field shenanigans going on that maybe his head isn't in the game, big man?
No, as far as I know, no. I mean, I follow Jimmy G, like I follow, Amber Rose, and I don't see it. According to Mia Khalifa or whatever the girl's name is, Kiara Mia, she was interviewed by a TMZ a few days ago, and according to her, she said that they still talking to friends and that everything she touches turns to gold. Hasn't actually been made public yet. I mean, he obviously likes her and they like each other, but there hasn't been a ton of success after meeting her. I think she's a bit high on herself, but she still believes in Jimmy G. But no, according to them, they don't talk a ton anymore. No.
All right, important stuff there. Thank you. Ian, go ahead, man. Finish this one off.
Yeah, you got to get the TMZ update definitely in there. That's vital for this show. If I got to get it in there. Look, I am absolutely thankful again that this week I got this total out there on Twitter early in the week because I've got over 54.5 in my pocket in this game, and even at 56, I want no part of this game under the total. Sorry, this is a situation where you've got two teams in terms of big plays. That's the thing. I mean, we talk about pace. Big man talked about. These are big play offenses so far. San Francisco that can make up for lack of pace. When you have big plays, you have 40-yard, 50-yard, 60-yard touchdown bombs. We're seeing that routinely from Kansas City this season. Tyreek Hill gone with a big touchdown pass. We're seeing Matt Breida last week for the 49ers gone on a 70-yard touchdown run. These are big play offenses, quick strike attacks. And that can definitely be detrimental to anyone looking under the total in this game. And like I say, I've cashed with Kansas City over twice. Yes, there's a concern that the value's starting to slip away. No doubt this is the highest total they've had so far. But I don't know where the stops come from. This San Francisco defense let Matt Stafford carve them up last week with that big lead. There was screw-ups big time for San Francisco in the secondary last week. You can't have that when you got Andy Reid scheming with Tyreek Hill, one of these speed burners, and Travis Kelce in the middle of the field. I really worry for San Francisco's defense. It wasn't very good against Detroit. I think they're going to get picked apart here. But I think San Francisco is going to pick this terrible KC defense apart. They've been awful. If Pittsburgh was at least somewhat better than they were, and maybe not so much, the shit show it is right now, the Steelers, with Le'Veon Bell and that whole situation, and now Antonio Brown not reporting earlier in the week. I think Pittsburgh could have hung even more points against this KC team. They're hurting without Eric Berry. They've been abysmal defensively without him. It's been carried over into this season, and I think San Francisco and Jimmy G, I know you lack a little wide receiver depth. I definitely understand that without Goodwin, but they will move the ball. Technique-wise, fundamentals, bad defense on both of these teams right now, especially Kansas City and even last week, San Francisco. So it's getting up there. And there's going to be a point where the totals just move too high, even for me to like it, but it's over or pass for me.
Okay, over or pass for Ian. And guys, near 250 people watching live right now. We really appreciate it. If you could hit the like button, share on Facebook or retweet on Twitter, that would help us out a lot. And yeah, thanks for chiming in, guys, in the chat box. We got Degenerate Special coming up and Best Bets from the crew. Let's start off with the Degenerate Special. We're starting to get degenerate here as it gets, week 3, week 4, college football. Got a little one involving a G5 team versus a Power 5 team. Kind of interesting matchup, though. Buffalo on the road, laying 5.5 against the Big Ten Rutgers team. 50 the total. Need a side or a total or something. Just whatever you can bet, guys. You just throw out something. Donnie, you want to start us off, man?
Yeah, I mean, you're taking a look at a good program on the rise there with Lance Leopold for Buffalo coming in the Rutgers. Who would have think, or even a couple of years ago, that Buffalo's going to go on the road against a Big Ten team and be favored by damn near a touchdown? It's kind of astounding when you think about it, but some nice wins already on the resume for Buffalo. A good Eastern Michigan team last week. Now, let's not forget, you say, oh, look, it's only 7 points. But Buffalo was in hand for most of that football game, up 14 late, a late EMU touchdown to get them back to within 7. And then you take a look at the week before. Nice win at Temple, who rebounded nicely by beating Maryland. Temple's a pretty good opponent, and you went on the road and beat that team. But who's going to deny Rutgers here? I mean, hey, look, so what? They lost. Oh, it was on the road against Kansas. They got pounded. So what? They got embarrassed versus Ohio State. Looks like to me Rutgers one of the single best football teams in the country at home, pasting Texas State 35-7. I'm going to lean on that. Give me Rutgers here with the points.
Rutgers at home, going with it,
Oh,
Donnie. All
wow.
right, pick
All
5.5. Nice. Big man, got to give you the follow-up to that.
Yeah, I don't know what planet you're living on. And they lost 55-14. They didn't lose 27.
Jeff, look at the
26.
look at
Give me a
opening
break.
day when they were fired up at home. They
Donnie,
crushed
it's not
Texas
the
State
point.
at home.
I'm not talking about the game at home. You
They
act
have
like
a
they went into
plus 28 differential at
You act
home
like
this
they
year.
went
That's
into
amongst the
Rutgers.
best in the nation.
Act like they went into Kansas and lost by 1 point. They gave up 55 points and lost by 40 to Kansas, for God's sakes. I'm
Yeah,
not
but
saying
Jeff, they played. Look,
You
I'm
act-
big on stats. I like to go back years and
Texas
years and
State
years. Let's
stinks.
not forget
They're
the
the worst
very
team in the
first
country.
college football game was played at Rutgers, and they won. That's enough to stand on in this game. Home field
It's
advantage.
important.
Donnie, let's cut it out with it. I mean, they're not funny. Listen, I'm going to go against him here. It's a stupid bet by him. He's only trying to be one of those guys. I had Rutgers after the week. Listen, Buffalo's going to fucking pound Rutgers. They want to play a Big Ten team. They've already beaten some pretty good teams as it is. This team, Donnie knows, and it's shame on him for actually going against Buffalo because he knows that this team is really good. They have a quarterback that's terrific. Their receivers are two of the most unknown players in the country that no one talks about, but they're terrific. They're going to absolutely destroy Rutgers. Listen, it is a creepy line for sure. I'd much rather it be 8.5. That'd be a little bit more comfortable here. It's moved back to 5.5. Sharps are on Rutgers, but I couldn't care less that Sharps are on Rutgers. I'm going to look towards Buffalo in this one to beat Rutgers and to end Donnie's good run on this show with a degenerate specials. Give me Buffalo.
Yeah.
Hey,
Washington
way,
last week. We're going to come back with the Rutgers this week, man. Can't stop this show.
All right, let's go. Hey,
Can't
and
stop
by
the
the way,
Donnie
big
train.
man, the Sharps are on, dude. That slogan, I just that's getting out of hand. Like, who the hell?
I love
I
it,
just
yeah.
think people are running out
Well,
with
because
that.
it's a stupid. I mean, I think we've all shown. I mean, over the course of years on these shows. I mean, I think we're as good as anybody. I mean, who's a sharp? Is a sharp is someone with money? That deep pockets doesn't translate that you're a good sports bettor. I think
the translation got lost over the years with sharps, where it just says like you take it. Like let's just say, for instance, if you just take UTEP this week, like you're sharp. But even if they get beat by 40, you were still sharp with UTEP. Yeah, where's that from?
If you. I mean, if you came to me like, to me, the person that I respect the most in the business as far as a sports bettor is currently incarcerated, Billy Walters. He's not making any bets. The second person I probably trust, from what I've heard, from what I've seen, I guess people respect Krakenberger second. I've never seen any proof that he's a top sports bettor. But if he came to me and said, hey, listen, Jeff, I'm on Rutgers here, I'd say, okay, good luck. I mean, I don't see it. I hope you do, though. I'd go toe-to-toe with any motherfucker in Vegas. I don't care where the hell you are. I'll go toe-to-toe in my knowledge against yours. And I'm sure Donnie would, and I'm sure Ian would, and I'm sure you would as well. We all have tough runs, but to call someone a sharp because you're betting Rutgers here, they bet on the Browns the last 6 years. How's that worked out? Sharps are not sharp. They just go with what doesn't make sense. To me, the smart play is Buffalo. Sorry.
Yeah, I agree with you. That was a good way to put it, big man. It's just like the unpopular side is the sharp side. Anyway, sure. Ian, finish this degenerate special off. I'll follow you up on it.
Yeah, the Sharps that have been pounding Cleveland Brown games the last few years. Cleveland this week, Cleveland that week. Yeah, it's not worked out very well for them these last couple seasons. But for this game, I can only back Buffalo. Here, though, is my concern with this game. This number has been jacked up way higher than it was prior to that Rutgers game at Kansas. Look, you lose 55-14 against Kansas. That's going to affect your power rating. That's going to affect where this point spread is. I mean, that was a disastrous performance from Rutgers on the heels of a 52-3 loss at Ohio State the week before. That's why now you're laying 5.5 with Buffalo instead of maybe 3. Whereas probably this line would have been maybe a slight favorite Buffalo prior to last week's results. And of course, Buffalo has another win at home against Eastern Michigan, followed up after beating at Temple. You're right. There's no part of Rutgers I like right now. This offense is underachieved. I don't know how you only put up 14 points against Kansas, and that defense, that's hard to fathom. Their defense somehow gets crushed each of the last 2 weeks. The one win was against Texas State, who are absolutely dreadful. So, yeah, I could only back Buffalo, but it's just a question of value to me because I think you're paying a tax now, 5.5, when this number is probably 2.5. prior to Rutgers getting their teeth kicked in by Kansas last week. So just a question of value, but for purposes of having a pick, we got to have one. I'll go Buffalo, but I'll be honest, I will not be on Buffalo here. I think the point spread's just a little higher after that Kansas result last week. By the way, he mentions Bill Krakenberger, big man. Bill's the guy I talked to send my VSiN newsletter articles every single week, and a good guy. I haven't met him, but seems like he's on the up and up. Seems like he's a guy worthy of respect.
Guys, I'll follow you up with Buffalo. There is a 5 out there actually right now at Bet Online. So Buffalo -5. Like Donnie said, Lance Leopold doing a hell of a job with the program. I think they got the better quarterback, and I think they go on the road. They're the more, they're the more motivated team, and I think they go into Rutgers and come out with the win by more than a touchdown. So I'm on Buffalo -5, and Donnie's the lone soldier on Rutgers. We can't give you +5.5, so a little change here on the line.
Yeah, hey, keep it in New Jersey, man. Look, there's a lot of gambling in New Jersey now, Drew. So I'm going to say that there's going to be a lot of pressure on the home side to get this done up at the FanDuel Sportsbook.
Can't bet on them. Can't bet on them.
Oh well, that throws my theory right out the window. Oh well.
Happens, boys. All right, let's get to best bets. Go right around the horn. Jeff, we'll start off with you. Follow him on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. He's the big man on campus. What do you got for best bets?
Yeah, I'm going to Champions League today. Valencia against Juventus. I'm going to go with a bet that you can find on any sportsbook. You just got to look under props. I'm going to go with Cristiano Ronaldo to score any time. If he scores a goal, we win. -120. You can find that at several different sports books. Cristiano Ronaldo is now with Juventus, but he has destroyed Valencia in his career. He scored 15 goals in 18 games. He's absolutely terrific on this stage, winning a ton of Champions Leagues. He, like me, just does better when everyone's staring at him. When the spotlight is on him, he comes to play. He brings it all. He's the best player in the world. Give me Ronaldo with his new team beating and taking it to Valencia today. I think he might even score 2 goals here. With his significant great fortunes against Valencia, I have to go with anytime goal scorer Ronaldo at 1.83. That translates to, was it -125 on the real odds? I'll go with bet 365 on that, and I can bet that because I have an account there. I'll go Ronaldo to score anytime.
And that was -120?
It's 1.83 at Bet365, so that would be what's that? -120. Yes.
For the American bettor, which is who we're talking to, probably.
-120. Yes.
All right. Ronaldo to score -120 for BMOC's best bet. Ian Cameron, follow him on Twitter at Babano. What do you got for best bets, bud?
Yeah, Miami, Oakland over 43.5. I think Miami's defense is going to struggle a bit more. You got the rookie quarterback on a short week, a rookie quarterback that still threw for over 300 yards in that game. You've got a situation where you play Tennessee, a broken offense, still learning a brand new system under LaFleur after they dispatched Malarkey and Robisky in the offseason. So going to be a much tougher test for Miami's defense. But on the flip side, I like what I've seen out of Tannehill this season. He looks comfortable. Might have Devontae Parker back on the field for this game at wide receiver. And Oakland's defense, like I say, game on the line last week. They didn't get the job done. I think they're going to have a hard time stopping Miami here. I actually lean to the Miami side too, but I like the over more. 43.5. We'll go with that for best bet.
All right, good stuff, Ian. And Donnie Rightside, follow him on Twitter at RightsideVP. What do you got for best bets, Donnie?
Look, I got on my pedestal the past couple of years here, and there's an undeniable fact that you are at a massive disadvantage when you're heading on the road on Thursday night football. This game has been circled maybe over the last 5 years that they saw this schedule coming down the line. The New York Jets coming to Cleveland. They have all the containers around the city in this one, locked up with change, ready to give away free beer. Tomorrow is the night that the Cleveland Browns get the job done versus the rookie quarterback on a quick Thursday night game on the road. Theoretically, as I like to use today as my word of the day, the Browns actually probably should be 2-0 heading into this game, but haven't picked up a win yet. Everybody was so smart with Vegas and 5.5. The Browns will fly over that and make the playoffs. We're not even looking at that right now. Not even Hugh Jackson can hold this team back from getting a win on Thursday Night Football. The line is 3. The Browns win it outright by 7 on Thursday night and get off the schneid. That's my best bet of the week. The Cleveland Browns get that W. They got to win one somewhere, and right here is the perfect storm. Cleveland Browns win it and cover.
All right, Donnie. And what's the best number we can find out there on Cleveland?
Looks like -3s are across the board, depending on where you're getting. Bet online, -3, -120. That looks like the prevailing number. So take it at 3 or less in this one. Worst case scenario, they actually had a kicker this week that will make some extra points and field goals. I think you'll be in some decent shape. Tyrod Taylor's going to make just enough plays, more than the rookie is going to make for the Jets. Lower scoring game here, but a win and a cover by the Cleveland Browns, and everybody gets drunk and hammered after the game by throwing these soda machine-looking machines that have beer in them all over the place.
That'll be fun to watch. And guys, I'm going to go with 3-3-1 Northern Illinois +10 against the hapless Florida State Seminoles.
Yep. I like
Interesting one. Hopefully it comes in here. Going to be fading Florida State until further notice. So
I faded
NIU
them last week
+10.
too. Yeah, keep doing it until the market catches up. I agree.
Yeah. One thing that works in this business from time to time is if it's not broken, don't fix it. So hopefully NIU +10. Guys, anything else you want to throw out before we shut this down?
One win for the Cleveland Browns in their last 34 games. Donnie Rightside's got some balls.
Circle the wagons, baby, in Cleveland tonight. The mistake on the lake is going to happen tonight. It's going to be the most epic. Like if you thought the Eagles winning the Super Bowl was a party, wait till you see the parade that the Cleveland Browns get on Friday morning downtown.
Imagine your life when your two best plays on the Roundtable are the Rutgers Scarlet Knights and the Browns. Jesus.
Look, I follow the sharp money, Jeff. I follow the sharp money. It's very sharp to take these two football teams out there.
I hear you.
You will get sharp comments from me on Twitter if they both hit, Donnie.
We'll find out this weekend if it's as sharp as a Hattori Hanzo sword or as sharp as a butter knife. Which one is it?
Yeah, true.
Hey, great stuff, guys. For Ian Cameron, Donnie Rightside, Big Man on Campus, I'm Drew Martin. We'll be back next Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern. Thanks for tuning in.